Hello, and welcome to the Kink Perspective. My name's Chris. I'm a psychotherapist and consultant. On this episode, I'm going to talk about something I've written about, I'm very public about in the social media spheres when I do a panel. We live in a world that there's negativity, there's war, there's famine, there's all of these terrible things going on. So there's always a lot of things. When it comes to relationships, a lot of the times we've been so conditioned by bad relationships that we talk about these experiences and we post our red flag stories. We post the warning signs we should have seen, all the little flares that should be going up every time, if the hair on the back of your neck stands up when that dominant says something, or, you had a submissive there was a story of a dom that I knew. His submissive stole things from his home. So how to, spot lies, and then going forward, he was paralyzed trying to get into a relationship. But for all of these negative stories, for all of these negative sides, and they galvanize people. These are heartfelt, emotional stories that people can unite and rally behind. The one thing that we tend to forget about is the other side, the green flags, those things that make us smile about someone, the things that we should be on the lookout for, that exemplify the characteristics of a partner that we want or a person that we want in our life. We spend so much time sometimes wallowing in our own misery or in someone else's misery that we forget that if all we do is focus on the negative or the dark side, we're never going to end up focusing on that lighter side and letting someone in. We hear and read these woeful stories and these terrible breakups, and I'm not saying that they're not bad. Bad relationships happen. Relationships end for a reason, because they're over, for whatever reason they're over. But just because they end, and some end badly, it doesn't mean that we need to be conditioned to believe that everything is always going to be negative. And when people start recounting their stories, usually because there's a lot of sadness and there's a lot of unfulfilled question, probably the worst question that we look for an answer to, which never gets answered when a relationship ends, is the why. Why did it end? And we can keep asking why over and over. We reflect on these things to the point that we think we won't do them or repeat the same behaviors in the future. More than likely we do. So we start to be on the hunt for these red flags early on, so we can decide if we've even met the right person when we sit down and have a cup of coffee with them, or we go out and have a nice dinner. And we're judging them so hard on the red flags, we are missing completely everything that's good about that person sitting across from us. And when we first meet someone, you know what? We're going to be nervous. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to say the wrong things. It doesn't reflect the person we truly are, but we hold on to that and we go, oh, there it is. There's that red flag. But the one thing that misses from all of the times we do this is the opposite side of this. So today's episode, I really want to talk about green flags. And green flags in a relationship and how beneficial they are to us. This is something that's so vital that when we're looking for a partner, or we're already in a committed or getting into a new relationship, that they give us those warm, fuzzy feelings. These people help us emphasize who we are, and they let us know with the proper signals that we're on the right track. We're laying the foundation for something solid, something that's going to end up moving us forward, that's going to really be something that's going to be stable. And we tend not to do this. We're the society that we're in, social media, the technology age. I mean, we're swiping right and swiping left to figure out who is eligible or not. We're so conditioned just to hear the negativity because it's also clickbait, right? It gets us invested. We're emotionally committed. But when we find that right person, that warm and fuzzy feeling person, as they help us establish this trusting foundation that makes us happy, and it demonstrates to us what something healthy and long-lasting can be. Healthy relationships are a safe and empowering place to grow. They allow us to be vulnerable, not only with our partners, but with ourselves. And once we are in them, we can feel protected, we can feel appreciated, we can feel cherished, we can discover what love is, compassion. And we look at all of these things and we go, this person sitting across from me that I've gotten to know over these last few months, or I've been married to for 10 years, or I'm in a polycule with them for a long time, they understand your moods. The right person may have come along in your life when they make attempts to understand how you're doing or what you're going through. And they're not looking to get anything out of your response. They're just there to listen. They may not have experienced what your pain, your hurt, those low points, but they're demonstrating to you the care and attention while listening and hearing your limitations. They're not trying to offer you advice. They're not trying to help you get through it. They're just there. They're holding you. They're getting you some more tea. If you're having a nice cry over something, they're looking after you. This becomes the person you can count on. This is the person that unwaveringly stands at your side and helps you in your time of need just as much in the times of joy. It's this type of person and relationship we all should strive to be in and a part of. But we get so conditioned to look elsewhere, we forget this one key component. Another good component or a good green flag to be on the hunt for is inside of your relationship, you're both autonomous. You still both feel and retain your individuality. And that's quite important. When I do couples counseling and I talk to my clients, I tell them all the time, I said, it's great that you two both love baseball, you love to go camping and hiking, but what are some things individually? And they kind of cock their heads and it's kind of this deer in the headlights moment, because it's almost like they've forgotten. It's not that they've sacrificed themselves, but they have given up a small part of themselves and a small part of their identity coming into the relationship. It's not a bad thing. I've got some really healthy couples that are in counseling. One person loves to paint and the other one loves to work in the garden, and that's great. They retain that individuality, and neither one is upset at the other for doing these things. But you get that moment to retain those independent hobbies exclusive of the relationship. And it's okay, and it's encouraged, and they encourage your hobbies. Some men like to play sports on the weekends, for example, and not all wives or girlfriends or significant others want to go and see that. I'm not much a fan of sports anymore, but I remember back in the day in high school playing soccer and football, and my girlfriend was like, this is 2 hours of boring stuff. Couldn't agree. If you're not playing, it's boring to look at. When I even stood on the sidelines, it was boring to watch. But when you maintain your individuality, you both can function in a self-sufficient manner. You feel safe, you feel fulfilled, you're allowed to do what makes you happy as well as be happy within your dynamic. And more so, you're even happy when you're not together. There's not that constant need to be codependent together. Another really good marker is you make each other better. The right person that you are picked to be a part of your life, they always want to make you grow. Nothing beyond that. They encourage you to be the very best person you can be. They're invested in you seeking your full potential. If you want to go back to school and get your PhD, they're behind you. It may not be for them, but they're going to stand there by your side. They also work and develop their skills and improve on their faults and they want to be the best person for you and genuinely a better person all around. And we do see this in markers of, relationships as they grow, especially relationships that have had some sort of turmoil. And regardless of what that internal turmoil is, they come out or they come through it on the other side. Another good green flag to be on the lookout for is that they recognize your need for space. One thing I discuss and often ask my clients is, how much me time do you give yourself in a given week? The person in your life recognizes the need for this as well. And as much as we want to be with someone, we all need time for ourselves. In the beginning of a relationship, we want to be around touching and kissing and holding hands and engaging in intimate activities because we're really in that honeymoon phase, that first year where it's super exciting. That buzzkill eventually starts to wear down, right? 10 years on, yeah, there are still some people who are hot and heavy 10 years in, but they're the exception, they're not the rule. But that's not necessarily what I mean. What I really mean is the right person will accept that and never make you feel like you shouldn't have that time for yourself. They're not going to hold it against you or lash out at you. They're going to encourage it. And the same you should do for them. The right person knows the importance of personal time. And as your trust grows between the two of you, they're going to give you that much needed space at times to allow you to do those things. The right person understands that your personal time is important and will do so without being upset or hostile about it. And this is probably one of the bigger green flags there can be, because they're really going to encourage you to spend time with your friends, your family, get yourself an early night's sleep if you've got a big presentation tomorrow or you've got a big school project coming up, instead of making you spend every waking moment with them. And that's difficult because, when we're in a relationship, we really want to look out for our partners. We really want to be around them. So even doing those small things can be hard, but it's really in recognizing this step that this is probably one of the bigger green flags. Another one I like to always talk about is that your comfortability, it's important to them. It's not any more important than what's above or what's been previously said, but it's, again, one of the bigger green flags. When you're with somebody, it doesn't matter if that's your dominant, your submissive, your lover, your, boyfriend, husband, wife, whatever. They never make you feel uncomfortable in any situation, especially intentionally. They become the person you want to turn to and open up to, that person you can trust, that person you can be vulnerable with. They keep an open mind and they're there to listen to you. And that's really important, because this is the person in your life that when those chips are down, you can open up to, you can talk to them freely without any judgment, and they're just going to listen or help you work through your issues in a productive and a healthy manner. Only, though, if you ask for it. And that's, again, it's a green flag that we don't really, I would kind of say, runs under the radar. We don't really look at that and go, oh, okay, that's ultra valuable, but it is. Because we're dismissing these people who are in our lives. Sometimes we think, oh, well, when they're giving us our space, oh, well, they're ignoring me, they don't want to be with me. And that's not necessarily it. And if you do have that concern, talk to them. But another really good green flag in a relationship is your ability to espouse your vulnerability. People or couples within a really strong relationship have a strong sense of love and belonging to each other. They believe that that vulnerability is necessary. They believe that with their vulnerabilities, being vulnerable is the one thing that really makes someone beautiful and attractive and pure. And you know what? When they think that, they're right. Vulnerability is a key to most connections that we have, because it's in that boldness to open up to another human being, to reveal those things that are inside of us. It takes a lot. When we really talk about courage, that takes courage. That takes empowerment. And we can't always do that when we're not with the person we think is right or correct in our lives. I seem to say this quite often on a lot of the things I write or when I'm commenting to others, but the best thing we can do to cultivate a happy and healthy relationship is to communicate. Now, there's other therapists out there that will tell you their opinion, I should say. This communication is only a small percentage of the equation to a relationship. I completely disagree, and I disagree respectfully, and I will tell you why. There is no relationship without saying hello. There is no relationship without introducing yourself. There is no relationship without asking someone out. You can't do any of these things. You can't find out if someone likes you, wants to go out with you, let alone allow you to tie them up if you don't communicate. We have to discover each other's boundaries, what upsets them, how they're going to respond, how we're going to respond. We discover these things when we talk and evolve the relationship over time. And every time we increase that strength in our foundation, that relationship grows stronger. And when there are people in our lives that are presenting these things to us, these are the people that we really should start responding to and cling to, because they're healthy for us. You have to keep in mind that this goes both ways. A relationship, and I say this quite often, a relationship is a two-way street. It's not a bike path. Over time, we have to learn to open up to each other. As we evolve, we learn to compromise with each other in a healthy fashion. And that's usually another term that I always hear, compassion or compromise versus negotiate. I will always say compromise. I don't like to negotiate, because negotiating, that means each person is getting something, but they're going to resent the other person for something they don't want to do. A compromise, you find middle ground and you both sacrifice something equally. Right? I'm digressing a little bit. I might do a podcast on compromise versus negotiate in the lifestyle. But getting back to this, when we learn to compromise in a healthy fashion, what this allows us to do, I should say it differently. It's unhealthy discovering all of these things about someone if neither person is going to acquiesce to each other's needs. That doesn't mean we have to reimagine ourselves in a new relationship or change for them, but evolve together. If we do change in a relationship, that change must and only can come from within. If somebody else is demanding change for us, that relationship isn't healthy. Ultimately, we still don't change unless we want to. If we change ourselves to the point we're not recognizable, the relationship is no longer going to be healthy. We're no longer in something that's solid for us. We're going to be seeing more red flags than green. The fire services are going to show up because there's going to be, red flags all over the place. The great thing is, as we do evolve, these green flags in our relationships, they become the things that make us dive deeper in with someone. They make us feel free. They make us push our boundaries in a healthy and safe way. They make us feel secure. When I talk about BDSM to certain people, I was doing a panel and I was talking about the connection of trust and love inside of a BDSM dynamic. I said, when I looked at this person, I said, what are your limitations? And they went through their limitations. And I said, it's ironic when we end up meeting someone that we feel like we will move the mountains for them, come hell or high water. Those boundaries disappear because we are so safe within inside of this healthy relationship. We want to explore more with them. It doesn't mean that the other person is being dismissive of their boundaries and not respecting them. That's not what I mean. But once we realize we can look for the good over the bad, I should actually emphasize we should be looking for the good over the bad. We may find that the relationship that will be truly long-lasting and the one we really deserve is somewhere sitting in front of us. And it's important too, because oftentimes we overlook people where we can really evolve into some of these relationships that are going to be a lot more fulfilling. I see some of these relationships that get questioned in places like some of the social media sites, Instagram, Twitter. But again, I have to question how much of that is even for show versus how much of that is realistic. There is one couple that comes to mind. On all outward appearances, they would look to be polar opposites, but they're so connected, they're so entwined. The levels of trust and love that they exude are incredible. And it inspires hope. They do that. They inspire others. And it's beautiful to watch. It's not only beautiful to watch, there's scenes that they demonstrate or the articulation from the dominant about the things that they've done. But their relationship is real, and it's something that people could strive for. But it's hard. We have to stop looking for every situation that's going to end up being bad and start looking for the good. We might just end up being healthier, happier, and, I don't know, soon enough, no longer lonely. If you're lucky enough and you desire to be, you might even end up in love. It's definitely some things to think about. Until next time, everyone, be safe and stay kinky.